Hi, I'm Mike Thaler. I'm president of PDA-CA. That's PDA California. We are a state PAC for PDA, which is a federal PAC. That way we can cover everything. What we want to talk about today is the fact that since the COVID virus and since so many of our meetings have been moved to Zoom, a problem has been created. And that problem is getting people who attend our meetings to sign up to be a quote member unquote of PDA so they can be on our email list and so we can let them know what's going on. And the other half of that is we have people who aren't necessarily new, but their contact information has changed and we don't have a way really to get the information to change it, all because we can't hand out the form that we used to hand out to join. And the other half of that is the fact that we tell them join by going to pdamerica.org and clicking on join, and nobody really does that. So our information gets out of date, and it can get quite a bit out of date when we discover that we're sending out blasts to our chapters, and half of them bounce because we don't have current information. So what do? Well, what we can do is we can use the built-in functions of Zoom to collect that information when they register for a meeting. And we can then take that registration data once they've registered and the meeting is over and send it off to PDA and have the data updated in NationBuilder. The other thing is that we can also use that information for our own chapters if we have our own email list that we're using incidental to NationBuilder. So it's a pretty good solution. So I'm going to cover how it has to be done in order to make it work right. And trust me, it takes a lot longer to describe than it does to actually do. How do we prepare a meeting, I should say, in order to be able to grab this data that we need to keep everyone updated? Well, we really prepare the meeting at first, just as we always have, with a couple exceptions. And the main one being that in order for this to work, the meeting needs to registration required. And here's the opening screen when you create a meeting. And right now, registration required is not checked. So we're in the process of creating the meeting in the first place. We want to check it. And here is what it looks like when it's checked. You probably could have figured that out on your own, but there it is just to be sure. And once you've done that, you can save the meeting. You might also want to have a waiting room so that when people join before the meeting, that you can see them and let them in to be sure that you don't get Zoom bombed. But that doesn't have a whole lot to do with what we're talking about. It's just a recommendation. After you've checked required, save the meeting, and then go down to the registration tab, which is near the bottom of that page on that meeting. And there's the registration tab. And as you can see, at this point, there are no registrants in this particular meeting. And we have it set to automatically approve them. That isn't required, but it saves you a lot of trouble to have them automatically approved. So we're going to go look across from where it says registration options and it says edit. We're going to click on edit. So here we go. And as you can see, the default is automatically approved. And otherwise, we don't make a whole lot of changes on this particular page. But the next thing we want to do is go to the next tab over, which is questions. And here's what the question tab looks like. Once again, this is down at the bottom of the meeting page after you've created the meeting. And you can see that last name is checked and first name and email address aren't there because they're required. So you don't have to even bother with them. So we're going to check some of them off. And as you can see, where we've checked off address, city, zip, state, and phone. And we've made all of them required because this doesn't really do much if you don't require people to enter data. You'll find that if they don't have to enter it, they won't. So that takes care of the basics, but there is some additional information we might want to gather. And that falls under the category of custom questions. So under custom questions, there's a couple kinds, and one of them is a short answer. In this example, the short answer question that has been added is PDA chapter name or none. Remember that a lot of our people in NationBuilder that we want to invite to meetings aren't even near a chapter, and that's great. We can reach out to them with a Zoom invitation. So we have the short answer question, and we're going to hit create, but we're not yet going to hit save all. And we're going to go to the next page, which is also custom questions, but it's single answer. Once again, make sure it's required. And I put as a question county. That's especially applicable to where I am in California because we have 53 counties, and it sure would be, do we have 53? No, we have more than that. And it sure would be nice to know what county they're in. So I've only listed 3 because it's a pain in the neck to list all of them. But unfortunately, if we want to know their county, we have to do it. And the reason why it's best to do this as a single answer, it becomes a drop-down list when they fill in the form, is because in spite of the fact that we have as many counties as we do in California, at least half the people, if they don't have a drop-down list, will put that they live in the county of the United States because somehow they see an R in the word county and think of it as country. Anyway, so I've created this, and normally you would probably add a lot more if you're doing a statewide meeting. If you're only doing a meeting for your chapter that's in one county, you don't need to bother with it. In any case, then you hit create, then you hit save all, and it saves both your regular questions and your custom questions. So the next thing we need to do is change some email settings. The first one we want to look at is email contact, and we could edit it, but as you can see in this one, it's got my name followed by an email address. This is the address on their confirmation letter. It says if there's any questions, contact Mike Thaler at that email address. It is not the email address necessarily of the account. But the main thing that we need to do here to get this to work is we go to confirmation email to registrants, look across, hit edit, and we edit it. And what you get then is a long window that has 2 opportunities to put in custom information. Otherwise, it's a pretty standard document that you can't change much. So make sure that you have checked send confirmation email to registrants, or they won't get it, and then the whole point of all this kind of goes down the drain. The subject is whatever the meeting topic was. This is a variable meeting topic. It will fill it in with whatever you put as the meeting topic when you created the message. Then I added up here at the top a comment. This meeting may be recorded and placed on the PDA and our PDA-CA YouTube channel, just so that later on people can't get really upset because it got recorded and their parole officer could see that they were in parole violation. So if they know it's going to be recorded and for some reason don't want it recorded, they just don't have to register. Okay. And as you can see, it already has filled in, please submit any questions to, and the address that was entered in the previous window. That's the top of this form. At the bottom of this form is another opportunity to put stuff in. And I put, by registering for this meeting, you consent to have your contact information editor updated in blah, 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 in the PDA supporter thing. That way they know that, it's going to happen. It also gives a reason, not that people would look at this and go, oh, I'm not going to do it, to actually put in the required information. Because some people, I don't want them to know my email address. I'm just going to put an asterisk there and it will accept it. The problem is then you don't have updated contact information, which was the whole point of this exercise. So once you've put something in there, or not put anything in either one of them if you don't want to, hit save and go on to the next thing. So once you've saved in the information, what you really need to do next is just summarize and make sure that everything is correct. For instance, verify that the contact address is correct for people who are emailing in questions. We talked about that. In this example, the email address was conference@PDA-CA.com, but would be whatever you need. And send yourself a preview email to proofread that confirmation letter. Keep in mind, it will go to the address of the account. So if you're doing this and the account address is different, for instance, it is on ours, the account address is something like Mike at, my personal email address. But the contact information that it's going to send to is what you put in that email contact thing. And then you hit send me a preview email. And if it isn't something you like, after you've previewed it, you can go back into edit and edit it again. And once you've done that and you're happy with it, you are done with part one. So this is the time when you can now send out that registration link to your invitees, I guess you'd say. And when they click on it, it will give them the form to fill in and you will get their information. So you can relax now a bit, wait to have the meeting, have a good meeting, and move on to part two of this after the meeting is over. So here, now we'll move into part two. So here we are at the beginning of part two, which once again, as I've said, is after the meeting. You need to generate the registration list and get it to PDA. So the meeting's over. You've had a good night's sleep, perhaps. You're ready to send the information off to PDA. So what you need to do is go back into your Zoom account. And this is probably the hardest part because it's the hardest part to remember. It's not logical. So when you go into your account, ignore any of the meeting information and go straight into account management, which is, as you can see on the left side of the screen. When you click on account management, which is on the left side, it will show you, it will, expand it into these following options. And lo and behold, there's reports. It makes no sense to me why they put it there, but there it is. And I have to look it up every time I do this because I keep forgetting. Maybe I won't forget so much anymore. So once you hit reports, there's these 5 options for reporting. And the one you want is meeting. So you click on meeting when it says view registration reports and poll reports for meetings. And you're not particularly interested in poll reports for this exercise, although if you take a poll, it remembers the results of the polls and saves them for you in a report. But that's not what we're talking about for this. We want to view the registration reports. So you click on there, and here's the screen you get. And the first thing you do is you click on registration report as opposed to pull report, and you put a range of dates in that includes the meeting that you're interested in. This meeting was sort of towards the end of January, and that 1 month spread, which is the most you can do, will include that meeting, so you hit search. And there it is. It's the third one down. It was a PDA/PDA-CA San Diego meeting. And we find it and we click on generate. So when you click on generate, it takes a few seconds to generate, and it comes up with a choice of what kind of registration type you want. Well, I can't think of any reason why you would want anything but all registrants as opposed to the ones that have been approved, especially since approval was automatic. It should still be everybody, and no one was denied. In any case, make sure all registrants is checked or circled, and hit continue. And now you see that there have been several reports done, and they're put in the report queue. And it just so happens that the one we're looking for is in the middle there. And we want to click on the download to download it. Okay. Now here it becomes a little bit different depending on the kind of computer you're using or if you're using Excel. But so think of this as, generally speaking, you will be doing something similar to this. And if you're using a Windows computer, you will get a box that looks a lot like this. And it says, and I happen to be using Firefox. What would you like Firefox to do with this file? We want to open it with Excel. Once you've clicked on open with, in this example, you will then hit OK. And it will open it, and it will look something like this. In fact, it will look pretty close to exactly like this if it's Excel. And as you can see, there's first name, last name, their email address, what time they registered, which really isn't all that important. Their approval status is there by default. It says approved, but we really don't care about that one. Their street address, their city, their zip code, their state, and their phone number. If this, in this example, county had been a custom question, you would see it on there along with any other custom questions you might have added. So now you've got the spreadsheet on your computer, but you still need to do some stuff with it. So what you would do is you have to save it. And what you would do is find a place on your computer, or create a place on your computer to save your registration reports. In this example, we used PDA-CA and PDA San Diego and called the folder registration reports. Clever enough. Then give it a file name that tells, if you see the file name, you know what chapter it was and what date it was, and that it'll save it with that date. And we want to save it as an Excel worksheet if we can. If you're using it, if you don't have Excel, you might have to save it in the native format that it comes in, which is a CSV format. That's also workable, but it's a little harder on the PDA people because they have to convert it to an Excel file and format it properly in order to use it. In any case, all that's done here in this example, and hit save. Okay, so you then would save it and you would attach it to an email, and you would email it to Dan at pdamerica.org. Or you could just print it for your own purposes or save it for your own purposes, which might be to keep your personal chapter database up to date. Optionally, you might want to generate the registration report right before the meeting so that you can see who's coming, and especially speakers. If you have a speaker that's going to be the main speaker and you don't see him on the registration report that you do right before the meeting, you can do what I do, and that is panic and then call him or her and say, hey, you haven't registered yet. But other than that, once you've sent it to Dan at pdamerica.org, the next best thing to do is take a nap, have lunch, or go on to do something else because you are done. And it's now in PDA's hands, and they will update and upload it into the NationBuilder database, and everyone lives happily ever after. So thanks. I recommend that you run this, this video the first time you do it, and start and stop it as you go through all the steps. And you'll find that once you do it a couple times, it becomes so easy you don't need to even refer to the video anymore. So thanks a lot, and have great meetings.